Hello. Hello out there. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm just keeping an eye on things here, of course, in living room land, in streamland, to make sure everything is going okay. Yeah. It seems like it's going okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight. It's great to have you here. Let's see. Okay, what's happening? Yeah, no, it's here. Oh, hi, everybody. There we go. That's good to know that I'm not just talking into the void. Every once in a while, I get this sense of like, what's going on? I can't see the video. Can you see me? If you're out there, can you let me know that you see me? Yeah, is that good? I'm here, not just a voice. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's lovely to see you. So, Cynthia, Johanna, Brenda, and one hummingbird lane. Thank you. It's great to have you here. If this is your first time watching one of our live streams or participating in one of them, welcome. My name's Mary Kay. I'm here on behalf of the Living Room Community Arts Studio, and this is what we like to call a live stream art hive. And oh, good, everything's good. And just like I've been doing now, I'm going to be checking in with folks throughout the night in this chat we have going on. And you're welcome to chat with one another, not just with me. One thing I love about a live stream archive is it gives people a chance to sit back wherever they are with whatever they're doing, wherever they might be, and just be them. You don't have to worry about what you look like or what you're wearing or even what you're working on. You can just be you wherever you're at and do what you need to do to take care of yourself and get creative and maybe benefit from some of the virtual art hive vibes. You might even want to talk to people in the chat to ask, what people are working on. If maybe you're having trouble or, maybe you're excited about something, a project or a particularly creative endeavor, and you want to pick other people's brains about it. Please feel free to do that. And as you do that, I might chat with you too and join the conversation. But for those of you who may not want to participate in the chat, that's okay as well. You do you. I'm here. I can take care of myself, and I'm going to be making and talking throughout the whole night, sharing my thoughts on some of the themes that you folks have suggested and I've drawn out of the hat, which includes for tonight mending and the theme of precious things. Now, personally, I couldn't have chosen a better match myself, and I swear this was random. There's some interesting energy out there in the world. Or, you know what, maybe I have no idea. I have no idea why. I drew them out and I thought that I would have to draw again because people wouldn't believe me that those were the two things I drew out of the hat. But there you go. They seem to fit so perfectly with me. Ah, lovely. Well, just seeing in the chat, Cynthia's saying, need some gentle, easy, creative time. And you know what? I'll do my best to provide some of that energy for you. But like in the physical storefront where we used to have the space, or in any in person art hive that we create with you, you make the energy as much as I do. So thank you for being here. And for everyone who might be watching later on, once it's been archived, thank you for being here too. I appreciate your energy, even though we might not be able to chat. We might not be chatting with one another right now. That's okay. I know you're out there, and I thank you for being there too. And just on that note of themes, if anyone else has any ideas, any um, themes or suggestions for what might guide the conversation, the creative conversation we have tonight in the work I create or in, future things, please let me know. If there are activities or techniques you'd like me to try, even if there are things that I'm not necessarily familiar with, I'd love to learn. So let me know what you like. Send us an email at info@livingroomcommunityartstudio.org or throw them in the comments here and I will add them to the hat and we'll figure it out as we go. And we'll see what we draw for next week. Hello, Kathy. It's so good to see you back. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, safer, braver space rules or guidelines apply. You know what? Sometimes art hives aren't for everyone. You might be familiar with a certain way of working, and maybe this energy doesn't feel quite right to you right now. And you are more than welcome to take care of you and do what you need to do and step away, walk away for a few minutes, log off entirely. It's got to feel right to you, right? And I won't take it personally. I'm okay. And of course, if I say or do anything tonight that makes you feel weird or uncomfortable or not at all good in any way, if you can let me know, I'd really appreciate it. Please keep me accountable. If you'd prefer to send me an email again or a message privately to let me know, that's okay as well. I do my best to learn from all of these experiences, and Art Hive Life has taught me so much over the years. I continue to learn and grow, and I hope we can provide a little bit of that for you as well. So, what else do I need to say? Forgetting anything? No, you know what? Other than that, I just invite you to create with whatever materials you might have on hand. You might want to mend things with me. That might be a fabric kind of thing, like I'm going to be working on tonight. Maybe it's, I don't know, maybe you're fixing a toaster or something. Let's bring in and introduce some of those repair cafe vibes and explore what we can do to take care of the precious things within our lives. And of course, that's not your jam. That's okay. Do whatever feels right for you. Maybe you have a work in progress that's been calling your attention and you can use this time to dedicate some energy to it. Maybe you feel like baking bread or washing the dishes or doing some homework. I have a feeling that there are a few folks out there who might be studying their hearts out right now or just working to deadline on projects for midterms or for work, whatever. This is here for you. And whatever kind of thing we do together, you're going to, and I'm going to, at least I'm going to, draw something interesting from it. And that, at its heart, is Art Hive Life. Creative social interaction, how we communicate, the kind of relationships we build, or the boundaries we create in some cases, which is a part of relationships as well. All right. Speaking of boundaries, for me, fabric and textile has a lot to do with that, believe it or not. Things with edges, things that need to be stitched together or pulled apart, things that have holes torn into them or rips torn with daily wear and tear. There's something about fabric and textiles and fiber arts that keeps calling me back. And I think I should also include this in any intro. I am not an expert. I am an accidental creator in almost everything that I do. So tonight I'm going to be working on some visible mending to highlight some of the areas in my precious thing that I've chosen that I want to repair and love and give new life to. So, okay, let's dive in. All right, here we go. So, what have I got? You know what? I'm going to show you the piece I'm going to be working on. And you know what? What are you folks working on? If you've got your own things that you're mending, I'd love to hear about it. It's a very, very special thing, isn't it, when we come together with the things in our life to give them some time. I was going to show you some socks that I mended earlier, and then no, I needed to actually wear them. So I'm not going to show you my grumpy socks. I'm just not going to do that to you tonight. But there's a certain pleasure I get from mending a hole in a sock. There's a certain pleasure I get from reclaiming something that I thought was perhaps lost. And, you might have seen me walking around with this bag. This bag for me is full of stories. It is the first thing I ever purchased from an art hive. It's one of my favorite little art hives in Montreal. Oh, excellent. Wendy's darning some socks. That's great. Yeah, see, darning socks is such a simple thing and it's forgotten a lot of times. We just buy and we throw out. And I can't blame anyone if you do not want to take time to darn your socks. And sometimes I actually get angry with my socks and I'm just like, no, I'm not darning you again. And they become dusters for me. I try to repurpose things when I can. And socks are really good. Like you put them on your hand and use them as gloves to, sweep up dust and stuff like that. Is that just me? Maybe. But yeah, if you don't want to darn your socks, that's okay. But I do like taking time, sitting watching TV or whatever, just to stitch. And I use that time to weave, often using like colorful embroidery thread or different kinds of woolen mending yarn that I find here, there, and everywhere. And it doesn't necessarily look pretty. It's definitely not invisible. A lot of my socks are covered in patches that are just calling out for attention. But for me, there's such a pleasure in taking care of the small things, right? And when I take care of bigger things like this, I wonder if this has been needing some attention for a little while. I tend to wear things out. Let's say Kathy's saying, I definitely use socks for dusting. Oh, good. I love that. That's fantastic. Any other uses for socks out there? That's just, I think, suppose something we could throw into the chat. Why not? There is something about mending and repairing that also has to do with sustainability, I suppose, and just like using less and enjoying life more, building that relationship of respect between ourselves and the things we have in our lives, which brings, again, that sense of life to the things that we share space with. This thing, this bag, has traveled with me quite a lot. So, a Montreal art hive called Couple Milieu. Uh, I like to say it fancy like that. I'm probably mispronouncing it. So, any French speakers out there, Montreal folks, I'll let you. But uh, it was the first thing I bought in an art hive. And it was my introduction to the fact that art hives could sell things, that they could celebrate the creativity of their community in new ways, selling work for artists, but also selling things to support themselves and to keep the work that they were doing going on. And I've seen so many interesting things sold in art hives over the years. I just love it. And I do look forward to getting back to a time where we can get back to doing that ourselves as the living room too. But oh, including Kathy. Oh, yes, sock puppets. Sock puppets, another great use for socks. And Brenda saying, ah, socks, old socks are great for dry erase boards and used to have a set for kids in the class. That's fantastic. Hmm. A whole new way of repurposing things to fundraise for the studios, all the art hives out there, all the old socks, washed, cleaned. Sometimes it's just about packaging, isn't it? I wonder if we'd be more inclined to buy a used pair of socks if they were specifically branded as dry erase board erasers. Might be fun. Or a part of DIY sock puppet kits. You never know, right? It's just an interesting way of reclaiming and putting a spin on that customer service consumer model that we have out there. And this bag, again, made from repurposed old fabrics that were donated to this art hive, which is a lovely little art hive if you're ever in Montreal. It's in the village. It's a little cafe meets art hive. And the cafe is one of the ways that they support the art hive project. But of course, they also have wonderful showcases of creators' work. And when people come through, they might make and donate things to the art hive, which I really appreciate. And people have done the same for us, which I love so very much. Some of you in this chat have actually done some of that. So thank you for that. But this bag, I remember seeing it and thinking, it's coming home with me. And it's just lovely. It's simple construction, like nothing too fancy. Raw edges, just like, again, it's just made with love and maybe speedily made. Sometimes when we were making tote bags at the living room, it was just this assembly line of wonderfulness. Two or three cranky sewing machines sitting on some tables and people cutting up the patterns and passing them along. And you have a few experts in the house. I remember one of our community members, Sandra, who would just love, her passion was sewing and knitting and crocheting. And she was just this fantastic, she was just, she could keep us in line. And if we started chatting a little too much, she'd be like, nope, we need some more tote bags. Keep on going. Um, but in that process, you have wonderful, quirky things that are made. Not perfect. Imperfections always welcome, just like in ourselves. Um, but so much charm. And I think a handmade, perfectly imperfect tote bag, I'll take that any day over something that was made in a factory somewhere by, someone who maybe didn't have the opportunity to love what they were doing as much as we did. Right? So this bag has been with me everywhere. As you can see, I don't know if you can see that where it's just wearing really thin along the edges. Oh, oh my goodness, I didn't even notice that. It's a miracle I'm not losing more things from this bag. I was just using it yesterday. And of course, the lovely stains of paint and different adventures I've had along the way. I'm not going to make those go away. I think I'm going to keep those little things and find a way to patch these little holes. But oh my goodness, Mary, what are you doing with your bags? How does that hole even happen? Gosh. Oh, and Cynthia saying perfectly imperfect. Yes. Yeah. That's, isn't that what we want for ourselves, to embrace that perfectly imperfect, precious thing about ourselves, that we are not, that we are human. And that's a beautiful gift. We can't expect ourselves to be machines. And I think so much of the time we do. Working with students recently, I'm reminded of just the pressure we put under ourselves and or onto ourselves and or put ourselves under. And it's so easy to get caught up in that idea of why am I not, or I should be, or I could be, and beating ourselves up for the things that we aren't able to accomplish or able to accomplish in the way we wanted to accomplish. And that's just day to day working like life admin stuff, let alone anything creative in our lives. So perfectly imperfect, I think a nice philosophy to have about ourselves, for ourselves in our lives as works in process that we are. And the things we make by hand remind us of that sometimes. So, what do you think, folks? How should I prepare this? I think some stabilization is required. And if, I'd had a little bit of forethought, I might have maybe put some lining in the inside of this, but maybe to start, I'll just create some patches because I'm looking at this now and I could weave it. I could try and mend it that way, the same way that I might with a sock to try and weave the fabric back together with some colorful thread. But this, I think, is a little past that. So I'm going to add on to it. I'm going to add on to the story of this bag. And as always, with any live stream, I'm going to see how far I get and probably continue working on it after it's done. So yeah, bear with me and we'll have some fun. Okay. So I've pulled some fabric scraps here. And you know what? I was going to work on this stone too, but I'll have to save that for another time. I love covering stones and using fabric scraps to make precious little items. So I'll show a little bit there, right? It's one of my new favorite addictions slash hobbies. But today I think I'm going to need to spend a lot of time on this if I want to make some progress. And sometimes choosing fabrics alone can be the best creative process of all. So I have pulled some scraps. I imagine a lot of you out there have fabric stashes where you just have those little bits and pieces that you can't throw away. I do too. And I try to save them. And if they have little weird things, I just, just try and keep anything that speaks to me because you just never know how you'll use it. And I'm getting better at organizing things because there's a whole art form to that as well. And of course, when you work in an art hive, people donate fabric all the time and it's so beautiful and precious. I do not want to waste it. So, oh, that one's kind of nice too. And it begins just pulling out the different bits and pieces that can work with this bag. And again, this is visible, so I'm not looking to have a quiet statement. I think this bag has earned a little bit of loudness in its life. So, oh, that's nice too. So I'm just going to sort through some of these pieces and see what speaks to me. That one, maybe that one to pull. Maybe. And I imagine by the end of this process, I will have enough fabric scraps to make a whole new tote bag if I wanted to. But I'll do my best. I like the idea of incorporating some stripes into it if I can. Maybe that then. And here I go talking to myself. This process. This is me going into the fabric mending rabbit hole, folks. And then I also have, let's see what's over here. I pulled some other scraps earlier when I was digging through my other bucket. I have a whole suitcase full of fabric scraps. And these ones kind of spoke to me as well. Some lovely, is this Cantha fabric? Is that the name? This beautiful sort of sari, 100% lovely light cotton sari fabric that's often reinforced and used for quilts and pillows. Just really gorgeous. Whenever I see that, I see it in thrift stores or, find folks who are repurposing things, I will snap this up whenever I see it. Maybe not that one. I like that red, but maybe. It's very rich. You know what? It'll be over there if I need it. And that red, I had to pull that red. It's nice and bright, pops. Here's some fabric that I tie-dyed earlier this summer when we were making all of the banners and the streamers for the story scrolls that we did. And what else were we doing with tie-dyed fabric? The community went through a tie-dye. It was like a party this summer. And so much so that I stocked up on tie-dye materials again. So maybe we'll return to it in 2020, the 2023 neighborhood tour that we'll have this year. But that was a lot of fun just making, just blending random colors, not bothering to knot them or tie them or anything like that. Just kind of throwing on the color and see what happened in different color groups. And this, mm, maybe put that aside. That's a darker red, but I really do like the pattern on that, the herringbone pattern. All right, so this is my brain in action. Let's lay out some of these and see what can be done. My other favorite tools for mending, of course, there might be folks out there who are familiar with the Japanese art of sashiko, and I actually splurged and bought some sashiko needles from the Tulip Company. You can get them a lot of other places, but they are made really, really well, and I use anything that comes across my path, as you know, whether, it's just what happens to be at hand sometimes. But these needles are exceptional. And if you're someone out there who gets frustrated with needles breaking or catching the fabric, just wearing down over time, then you'll appreciate this lovely little tool. They're just beautiful. They're beautiful needles. What can I say? So I think I might be using some of those to stitch with tonight. And I will probably be incorporating just some general, like, cheap and cheerful sashiko stitches, nothing, or even beautiful running stitches to hold things in place. After things are done, I might revisit it with the sewing machine just to strengthen it up a little bit. But for now, I think I'm just going to have fun with it. Start with the fun. Sometimes for me, it's all about starting in the place that is calling to me. So yes, I could have lined the bag tonight. I could have strengthened it. I could have ironed in, some interfacing to, bulk up those places where the fabric was thin because I think this is just made out of lovely, like, feels like a dress fabric rayon, not necessarily something that a traditional tote bag would be made out of. And maybe that's why I love it so much. It's a resistance tote bag. It's saying, I don't need to be made out of tote bag material. I am what I am and I'm happy with it. Um, yeah, that's how I think sometimes. This bag has a personality, folks. Oh yeah, and this one definitely. But I think, yeah, I could have done things. There's always a better way to do things, I imagine. But for me, sometimes the thing that gets me stuck in and started is the way that's enjoyable. The place that's going to give me joy, like joy, the point of departure that gets me stuck in and calls me back if I have to put it down again. And that's patchwork tonight. And Sandra, I was just chatting about you, Sandra. I was just talking about our assembly line of tote bags at the studio and how you kept us all in order. That was fantastic times. Your ears must have been burning, Sandra. Sandra's such a generous and exquisite creator, always there, just compassionate, heartful. Sandra, the person who was always the first person to welcome people when they came into the studio, to offer to teach them how to crochet or knit. Although I know you'd probably say knitting wasn't your forte, but such a gift. You're so talented. So talented. So I got to say that. Shout out to the Sandra and the Sandras of the world. Thank you to everyone who's always willing there with a skill share, something to share with, whomever might be interested in learning, even if their patience wears out before yours does. Sandra entered into everything with a generous heart, and I love that about Sandra. And I love there's a few other folks on here who I could say the same about. Just witnessed some of it in the art hives on campus. Cynthia and Wendy, for example, just opening their hearts and being walking alongside people, creating and teaching and sharing and learning as well, right? We had some fantastic needle felting going on over the last few days that It was such a joy to see, again, checking my assumptions. People who you wouldn't assume would like or want to needle felting and walking away with really beautiful things that they created. Oftentimes for the first time, picking up these materials and just going for it. And that speaks for their stamina as creators, their willingness to take creative risks and fail. Um, but it also speaks to Cynthia and Wendy's just generosity of spirit and joy in meeting people where they're at and saying, okay, what if we create this? What if we do this thing? Mm. And Sandra saying it was fun. Ah, that makes me happy to hear that. All right, let's start. Sandra, I don't know if you've seen, look at this bag. Look at what a mess I've made out of this tote bag. Look at that. Look at that. That's me and my tote bags. Yep, anything that comes into my life has got to be willing to just like hang in there, go for the ride. I love you, tote bag. Okay, enough of that, Mary. Let's fix the bag. So, let's see. And I also, you know what? I do have a little stronger fabric over here. I found this larger piece of it's like a fake denim look, so I might introduce some of that as well, or I might just choose to line the inside of this after, and again introducing that visible stitch and crisscross and zigzag a few times. I think this will give it some internal strength when the time is ready. But right now, I'm done. And I was asking Sandra, I was inviting your folks to share what they were working on tonight. Tonight's theme, if you're just joining us now, is mending. Mending and the overarching kind of thought or idea or conversation, precious things. I thought those two were really lovely. They were paired nicely. So here's a question for everybody. In your own mending experiences, in your own journey, what do you feel? How do you feel about mending? How often do you find a chance to mend? And what are the things in your life that you'd like to spend some time mending? Hmm. And Sandra's saying patchwork. Yep. I hear you, Patra. Sandra. Patra. Patra. Sandra Patra. Have I given you a new nickname? Maybe. That sounds sort of like a superhero, like from He-Man or She-Ra. Introducing Patra, the mending force who takes on evil. I don't know where I'm going with this. You can take that. Take it away, folks. I'm inventing a new cartoon. If anyone wants to animate that, please feel free. Patra, the mender. Okay. Now, do I want it just to be simple squares? Or do I want to experiment? I'm just going to lean out of frame for a moment to pick up something here. Let's see. Okay. Maybe I can use this shape, a little hive shape to create. So if I'm going to flip it over so it's a little, well, I can do that. So I wonder if I can overlap a whole bunch of these. And that would be a nice homage to Hive Land. Oh, interesting. So Brenda, in response to that question, saying, I don't usually mend other than socks. I'm working on repurposing a small pair of jean shorts into a purse for a young lady. Oh, that's a fun project, Brenda. You can do so much with that too. When I was prepping for this evening, I was thinking, okay, what would I like? Should I introduce any other things like beads or buttons? And then I thought, you know what? I'll slow down and just start with the fabric first. But it's a really fun project. Pockets. I sometimes I will cut up old denim to use for repairing or mending inside, like if certain tears happen when I do want to make them invisible or less visible. So I'll save as many scraps as I can so I can match the colors a little bit better. But if I don't use the top part of the jeans, I'll take off the back or I'll cut out the back pockets to use. And I think that might have been Sandra or it might have been Laura B. By LB, if Laura's out there who taught me that trick too. Just having a nice stack of pockets that you can incorporate to bags or, patchwork quilts or things. And oh, Kathy says, I find myself replacing buttons more than mending. Oh, yeah, that's a lovely thing to do as well. And if we revisit the button episode a few weeks ago. I think, yeah, I'm not very good with buttons. I'm good with buttons and crafty things, but not so much doing mending buttons where it counts. I've been, there's been a, there's been a loose flap on my parka for, I'm not kidding, 3 years now. And have I taken the time to just sew on a simple button? It would take a few minutes. But no, I don't. Yeah, and that's me. So me and buttons. I gotta build a better relationship with my buttons. Another phrase that you don't necessarily hear in day-to-day life. I gotta build a better relationship with my buttons. Uh, yeah, I wish, okay, I'm going to borrow a little bit more of that from you, Kathy, because I think simple repair like that will help my coat just a little bit longer. So I'm just going to use this as my little template to start. And let's see what happens now. Cut to last week. Oh, I remembered. I just forgot that I had them right here in front of me. I did remember to bring some fabric scissors. And Johanna saying, wonderful. Johanna is crafting button backs thanks to last week's inspiration. That's awesome. Goodness. Oh, brings joy to my heart. There is life beyond the live stream. It is a really lovely thing when to get excited about something and then to begin seeing that purpose or that potential in your own life beyond something that you've watched. And you know what, Johanna, good for you for just picking that up and running with it and following that spark in your own life. It's difficult to do things for me sometimes when I'm not um, either with other people, like an in-person art hive, or here online in a virtual art hive. I have all the best intentions in the world, but well, as many of us know, there's always something that can sneak in there and prevent us from doing what we want to do. And that's a lovely thing. Oh, I love it. Let me know how that turns out. Feel free to share a picture if you like, or I'm going to hold on to these. I'm going to hold on. See these tiny scraps? And excuse me for my mind jumping around, leapfrogging around. So my another Sam in the Art Hive life, Sam, a Sam who was there with us from the beginning. Some of you will remember Samo, but all these little bits and pieces, Sam would keep and hold on to and incorporate them, make little tiny beads with them. And I've started kind of doing fabric beads myself. So I think these are really nice things just to add in to little projects like that. You know what? Only when the fabric is really special and lovely and nice and it feels good. Uh, but I'm going to keep those, I'm going to put those aside. So they're going to live right there for the moment. You saw me put them right there, folks. Uh, yes, but following through, listening to that creative, that little bit of inspiration that says, no, do this thing, give yourself that time, take a break. It's lovely. And it is a way of honoring ourselves, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. And if you hear me rambling just like that, it's something that happens when I start working with fabric. My very first job, walk down memory lane, very first job was working in a fabric land. And I feel like I was really lucky because I was not ready to have a job. I think I was 13 or 14. I'd just, I think, got my social insurance card and I was just determined to make some money so I could basically buy secondhand clothes. I'm dating myself, but that was the big thing. It was really the best thing in the world to find some old, scruffy, preferably looking like, just like not fancy clothes. We're talking about the ugliest, grottiest, kind of like dingiest things. Just things that would make your parents unhappy to see you wearing. And that was my purpose in life, to have enough money so that I could buy secondhand clothes. And I got a job at Fabricland because I fancied that sewing things would be really easy. And this was from a young person who'd never sewn anything in their life before. Dress! Welcome, friend! And so my journey began in Fabricland, and it was also my introduction to a fierce and fabulous world of predominantly female identifying forces of nature who ran this store like it was a military operation. Don't get in the way of a Fabricland employee in the midst of inventory season, folks. They are on a mission. And I think, these women taught me so much, and they put up with so much of my innocent but truly juvenile crap. It was a miracle they didn't fire me within the first, week of working there. I think they must have been amused by me, but they taught me so much, not only about, you know, having responsibilities, but also about communication and solidarity and how to complain. Oh, could they pull the weeds? There was this beauty in working there that I found myself feeling, something that a lot of folks don't often feel with their very first jobs or any job sometimes, with this sense of you are a part of something larger than yourself. You are a part of a crew of people that rely on one another. And they were very kind and they taught me how to sew. When I thought that I could do things and I couldn't do it perfectly right away, hello inner critic, they were there to say, that's okay. Just slow down. Try it again. What about this? Try this. And uh, again, they walked me through all of that. And I ended up being at Fabricland for a long time. And I owe it all to them. So thank you, Fabricland folks out there. Thank you to anyone who still does that for younger, dare I say, stupider youngsters who may come in thinking they know all that. Thank you for walking alongside them and holding their hands and helping them realize that they can do what they set out to do. And, for keeping me accountable too. I mean, there's many stories that I won't tell here, but they definitely made sure I knew the ropes by the time I left there. And let's see. Ah, Johanna's saying I'm crafting button pie. Oh, button. Okay, so I saw that again. So button backs. So okay, I want to revisit that button backs. Again, I invite everyone to share whatever they create. If you want to share pictures or even just something, send me an email with something in it. That's always nice. Uh, but I'd actually, when I sort of ran by that without realizing that maybe I needed some clarification on what button backs are. Can you share a little bit about what a button back is? And I think that can work its way into mending as well, if I'm thinking of the same thing, if I'm imagining the same thing. But yes, Fabricland, I learned so much about all sorts of fabric, including upholstery fabric doesn't necessarily make a good graduation dress, that it doesn't breathe as well in clothing as you might think it does. Yeah, there was definitely some learning curves. But what a privilege. What a privilege. So I'm not sure how this might work. Let's see. I'll give this a go. I might pin this on to get a sense. I'm going to pin it on right now before I forget. And inevitably, before the live stream is over, I will also probably prick myself here. There we go. That's all part of it as well. I just want to remember, maybe it's better if I do it on a bit of an angle here. Just want to remember placement of this and see so I can move things around a little bit easier later on. And all of these little fabrics are very forgiving. They're generally, I think everything I've chosen tonight or drawn from is cotton. Do I want to do that? Hmm. Yeah, many stories in this bag. I think I'll overlay that to strengthen that up a bit as well. Let's see. Okay, so Johanna explaining the button backs. I make small faux capuchon with paint drips, no holes, so I need a bezel type backing. I see. I think I see. That sounds fantastic. And that's what we were talking about, like with the is paint drips referring to acrylic paint that kind of hardens that you peel off or build up? Oh, I really love that idea. And then, so bezel type backing. Okay. And Johanna following that up with what kind of wire is best for buttons? I need help. So, okay. So when you talk about wire for buttons, can you explain a little bit more about how the wire will be used for securing, for sewing on, for sewing in, for puncturing through, or winding around behind to secure? And Kathy saying, oh my gosh, yes, pricking fingers on needles and pins. I can relate to that. I did in the hive at the hive on campus. The first time I sat to needle felts, we only had a few sponges on hand, because that's how my brain works sometimes. And I didn't even think. I was like, oh, I could have loaded up oh, hello, inner critic. Let me just say hi there. Hello, inner critic. Yes, I know. I didn't think ahead as much. Just shut up, inner critic, and sit down. Take a step to the side. Goodness gracious. Um, there were lots of things that I've learned, including people really love needle felting. Uh, but we only had one sponge, so I thought I'd let the person sitting beside me use it. And I thought, oh yeah, I can do this. I don't need I don't need a sponge to start this process. And it only took, what, 20 seconds before I'd stabbed myself. And those needles will remind you. They will remind you. They mean business, just like the Fabric Land crew. And Andres says, also working with buttons. What? It's a button night? Andres decided to use buttons as windows on your latest diorama. I am very excited about seeing some of these dioramas. I think there might be some reference images flying around there that I'm just remembering to check out. This is great. Let me show off Andres for a little bit too, folks. Andres is such an incredible artist, and it's been a privilege to work with him from time to time in some of our Art Hive work as well. I think Andres even hosted a virtual Art Hive, a live stream that we did uh, oh, over a year ago now. Um, might still be up there though, if you want to see Andres and some of their fantastic process, just lovely, spontaneous, joyous. Again, just embodying that creative risk taking, playful fun, just seeing what happens. I'm so lucky to know all of you folks. Truly, truly, truly. Even the folks I haven't met yet, even the folks who are watching, who maybe I will never meet or know of. Thank you for being in this life of mine. Uh, the dioramas I'm very excited about. And so buttons as windows. There's creativity everywhere. Let me try that one like so, or maybe like that. Do I? Do I want to? Do I want to make that smaller does that feel right? Talking to myself as I arrange patches on something. That's my Patcher superhero song. We'll work on that, Sandra. We'll work on the Patcher superhero song. Uh, I've nicknamed Sandra Patcher and assigned a role of superhero to Sandra. For those of you who do not know, who are only tuning in now, you can revisit the live stream to figure that out. And okay, Johanna, revisiting that conversation about wire and paint and making buttons, saying, I sandwich paint between resin and glass. I make a loop bail for a coat style buttons. Okay, okay, okay. Yes, so the best wire for that. So something, come on, Hive Mind, help me out here. I don't know the names of wires. So some folks might there out there might know. I'm imagining something that doesn't rust or break too easily with maybe, again, depending on what you're using it for, like temperature fluctuations, perhaps something that um, strong enough to not bend too much once it's set in the resin. Oh, that seems like it's this little piece of fabric has come to me from, I think, another project. Look at that. It's a little, maybe I should just save that as is so I can use it in a corner situation in the future. Do I have an extra? Yes, I do. This one's already been trimmed down. So, so it's got to be a thick enough gauge that it can be strong enough not to bend or snap, I think, but easy enough to work with and not, yeah, interesting. Folks, what do you think out there? And Johanna saying, I'm trying stainless wire, but I am just learning about jewelry wire. Yeah, there might be some folks out there who can recommend, I imagine. I mean, do you need to use a kind of wire that is what? Uh, um, does it need to be like a precious metal? Does it need to be silver or coated with anything? Gonna use that natural seam in there. There's so many things I'd like to learn about. Every time I hear of someone doing something cool creatively, I just want to dive in. Diorama, resin button making, all of the things, all of the things. See, I love these little scissors so much. Okay. And Johanna's saying, it seems complicated. Jewelry making seems complicated? I don't know. I suppose sometimes anything that seems complicated is maybe it's as complicated as we need or want to make it. I think with any creative endeavor, you can just, you know, take it as far as you like, as long as it's something that is giving you joy. Let's start. How about that? Or how about this? Talking to myself. I thought I wanted to use that there, but maybe I don't. Hmm. Huh, folks. Huh. I think it's nice to have that burst of blue there, but maybe can serve in a different capacity. Let's see. The Yeah, I mean the complications of things, that's a whole live stream all on its own. Maybe that's a theme to throw into the hat. Just the phrase, it's complicated, and see where that takes us. Again, and I'm not an expert. So I can't necessarily say, oh, this is how you do it, and this is what you need for that. I am really truly a person who enjoys often stumbling into things, experimenting. I had, depending on the materials that you're working with and how precious they are. That just happened. Sometimes it's okay to stumble and experiment and just see what happens when you make the mistakes. I love that. There's something, it's a scientific method, isn't it? Not necessarily intending to make mistakes but putting out that question, the what if, saying, what happens if I try this? And next time, maybe I'll do this now that I've learned that. There's something really joyous about that process. And it frees us up, or at least it frees me up to explore and to experiment and to make those creative discoveries that I think we've talked about before as well. That, you know, it's not always, I know, I know, I know. I think I know. Let's see what happens if I do that. I'm going to start separating these maybe. So maybe I don't want that there, but maybe I want this. Hmm. Maybe begin building that in. Starting to separate things a little bit. Let me see what happens if I trim off one of these shapes. But yeah, it's an intimidating process sometimes, right? And Johanna's saying, I never tried making jewelry before, but everyone likes the cabochon so much. I want to do something a little different. Well, I love that. Can we all take a moment right now just to like shine some like go for it energy Johanna's way? Uh, and what a wonderful thing for it to come out of a place of recognizing the pleasure that your work, your voice, your creative endeavors are bringing other people. That is a gorgeous thing. Uh, that's lovely. I love that you're staying true to that and you're following it, and that's what's driving your work. So, I don't know, not the boss of you, but there's something really you can't really go wrong if you're staying true to that energy. Yeah, I mean you can make mistakes, but they can guide you. They'll guide you through. That like that beautiful pin that Bronwyn Rutten made for us or designed for us. Let art see you through the dark or guide you through the dark. The dark isn't always difficult times. I think sometimes the dark is that process of muddiness and experimentation. But if it's something that you love, I mean, again, I'm not the boss of you, can only speak for myself. But when it's something that we love, we're willing to put in the work because it doesn't feel like work. And the learning process then just becomes like a genuine process of fun and play and creative discovery. Going back to school, but in a very specific way for yourself because you want to, and you will learn about what works best for you and what you love. But yeah, if anyone else has a suggestion or an idea for that type of wire, and I'll put it out there and I'll do a little investigating, Johanna, as well. And if I hear of anything, I will, perhaps I can throw it in the comments after. Maybe I can revisit it, but I will definitely do some research and see what I can find. Um, just about what works, what might work best. Come here, let's see. Then I'm gonna bring that back in and let's see if I'll start separating just like just like the thing behind me, the wall behind me. And again, I've given myself quite a lot of work here and it is 7 minutes left. So you know that I'm going to be working on this uh, after this live stream. I'm going to continue working on it. I'm going to enjoy working on this. I need to throw that in there though, just to strengthen that up a little bit. So maybe do I do that? Is that what happens? I think I need some yellow or some extra. I'm going to keep working on this, folks, and I will share a picture of it as I do when it's a little closer to completion. And I should know this by now that even this project, as much as because I love the chatting, I love the socialness of this just as much as the making. How about this for a final? Let's see. And maybe I'll try some stitches. I will be doing running stitches. I think that's the way to go with this. I don't think I'm going to get that fancy. I think I'm going to keep it simple and just let it be what it needs to be. Interesting. Oh, lovely. Oh, well, thank you, Kathy. Kathy's saying, I love the way you are mending your bag. I wouldn't have thought of creating a pattern like that. Well, I'm still in the process of discovering what pattern it is. Isn't that interesting? I don't know. That thinking all the ideas that run through your head about what might work. Again, that process of discovery, a process of elimination sometimes. But I think it will look, no matter what, no matter how this turns out. And as you saw the back, there's a lot of mending to do on this. So this is the beginning. This is the process. This is just the start. I want to honor the spirit of Couple Milieu and all the wonderfulness that they've given me over the years. And I can't recommend enough, if you go to Montreal and you have a chance, to explore and research and enjoy all the art hives that are there. There's so many, and I imagine it's been a really difficult time for a lot of them in the last few years. Um, but it's the heart of this movement. It's the heart of research and experimentation and using creativity to spark laboratories, incubators of, just recognizing the value in human endeavor, whether it's handmade or digitally. We got to shout out for digital artists everywhere as well. Sometimes we get a little focused on the hand making of things. I want that to be right there. So maybe I'll move this one over a little bit. But all the same, they do lovely, lovely work. And every art hive is different because every community is different. You've heard me say that a few times, I'm sure. But just really lovely, spirited work. And Montreal is a unique place as well. A little less conservative than Ontario, I think it's fair to say. And so they can get away with a little more creative experimentation there. And Cynthia saying, interesting. As a young adult, sewing and mending was a great thing to learn. Saves money, and more importantly, helped Cynthia express myself, she says. But it also gave me time with my mom and my grandmother. See, that's a lovely thing, right? The memories that we have of the people who introduced us to these processes, the loveliness of taking time to create. Yeah, taking time to create and who we create it with. And because when we mend, I think I don't know about you folks, there is an awareness of the preciousness of time and how we create or make meaning of time, create meaning out of the time we have. And oftentimes it is about the meaning we're creating with the time, with the people we're spending time with. And you come out of things like that sometimes just feeling so refreshed, feeling so grounded that as if, like 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 nothing else. There's something really quite, yeah, extraordinary about all of that. I don't know. I agree, Cynthia. Mending will remind me of every single moment that I had with people along the way who have taught me who I am and how to be a better human, how to slow down, how to observe and notice things. All of that. So, so, so important. That noticing and learning how to notice, learning that it's okay to notice. I thought I didn't want to use this, but I think I do now. This bright, limey green. Yes. Oh, so like the hexagons. Well, that's lovely, Cynthia. So interesting. Somehow there's different things. Like if you want to clarify what you mean by the hexagons, I'd love to hear it. But again, we're running out of time. Not running out of time. We're making more time. And as always, classic Mary, I will be here a little bit longer probably because I want to finish arranging some of these pieces. Mm. But if folks need to leave, you need to leave. You do you. It's all good. You can come back and watch this later if you like. And Kathy saying, I remember home economics classes in junior high, and that's how Kathy learned to sew. That's right. Oh, that's ringing a few bells here with Cynthia. Yep, and Cynthia says, and cooking. Cooking, I don't know if I think my high school or my junior high may not have had a proper kitchen. I don't think it did, but I don't hold it against them. That's funny. Again, the memories that things like this can stir up, processes like this can stir up. Slowing down, noticing what we're thinking, noticing what we're feeling, noticing the memories that come back and are stirred up. Yeah, all a part of the process. Let's see what happens. What if? And as I cut these patterns, even Cynthia, that that memory, that what sparked for me is a quilt that I inherited from my uh, a great grandmother that I didn't know. And I'm thinking of it now only because it used this shape and it was an interesting quilt kind of pattern that I've never seen, or I hadn't seen until I saw that, of kind of puffed up little little shapes. So unlike a flat quilt, it had stuffing put in behind it. And I think it must have taken so much time to create that. It wasn't finished. The quilt wasn't finished. It's waiting, waiting to be finished. And I'm not yet at the place in my own life where I think that I'm the person to do that. But maybe someday I will be. So it's waiting until I have time to go back and finish it, mend any patches where little holes, little moth holes have attacked it. It's a very precious thing. And I think I want to be really truly present with it when it comes to mending that and working with that end, right? I might need to take a few classes to learn a few things that I don't want to stumble across or make mistakes with, at least in the same way. Let's face it, I'm always going to make mistakes. I'm Mary. That just happens. I talk about human beings being meaning-making machines. I am also a mistake-making machine. I think it's something that should go on my resume, but I got to find a better way of phrasing it. Something academic sounding. I'll figure it out. And then what? Some red, maybe. Some more red. So if I hold this up, I know it's not perfect. Let's see. Of course it's not perfect. We've just had that conversation, haven't we? But just to give a sense of what the base might look like, what it might look like there, as seen at a glance, running by. That's a nice start, I think. That's a nice starting place. Yeah, I like that a lot. I do like that a lot. And there's still holes, and what I might do is big holes. So maybe some red fabric, another red. Where is that red? I've got more of it. Where is it? Do I want to use? No, not that. Oh, some nice wax cloth, maybe some African wax cloth underneath. Nice sturdy cotton fabric with some nice fabric paint stamped into it. That actually might help make it a little sturdy. Let's do that then. Let's do that. Let's see what happens if. And all of these pieces overlapping, providing support for one another. Bringing my bag back. And at least for now, even if I continue to use it, even in a work in process state, the bottom will be a little bit more supported. And that's a nice piece too. Huh. What about that? Yeah, I think I like that. So I'm going to take a little closer look here and see. Let's bring that up there. I'm liking what I'm seeing. So this is a good thing. And I think what I might do, just to give you a little heads up as I wrap things up here, I might create a smaller little hexagon pattern or just cut them freestyle. And then just start patching up some of the smaller holes that are everywhere. So they're not hexagons, are they? Whatever shape this is, a Hive shape. And it will just kind of trickle up towards the top of the bag. And wherever I find a point where there's a little hole or a weakness, I'll just hive it up there, and probably just use a really simple running stitch, like is in this cantha fabric here, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and just to keep it together. And when I have a chance, once it's all done, then I'll go back and I'll reinforce the inside with maybe a patch along the bottom, um, and just incorporate that stitch over top and through it. Just add it in. So there's nothing too, again, like nothing too precious about this precious thing. It's going to be full of life and character, and I will remember this conversation that we've had every single time I look at it and I think of it. Ah, how lovely. Well, here we go. Okay, folks. Thank you so much for being here and for spending time. And again, I apologize for not getting to any of the actual stitchy parts. I've enjoyed this conversation so much. But I am going to continue working on it on my own. And like so many of the projects I've done here in the past, you're going to see photos catching things up on our Facebook, on our Instagram. And when we update the photo for the thumbnail here on YouTube, you'll see what or how things have turned out. But I'm going to take my time with this, just continue making, and I invite you to do the same. If you are working on any projects, you don't have to stop just because the live stream stops. You can keep working on them and enjoying them and experimenting with them and making mistakes with them and figuring it out as we go along. And of course, if you have any ideas or thoughts about any of the conversations you're hearing or any of the questions that have come up, you know what? Let us know. You can send an email to info@livingroomcommunityartstudio.org. You can try throwing it in the comments of the video, especially if you have a suggestion that might help one of the folks in the conversation with the creative projects they are working on. We can keep the conversation going. Uh, that's part of the hive mind that I like so much. Sometimes things will come into our minds long after the live stream has ended, and we'll suddenly have that suggestion that might make someone else's day. So please feel free to share it. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, hey, we have a coffee page, and we also have a Canada Helps page. So if you'd like to support the living room and help us continue to do the things we do, including these live streams, why not visit, take a look, buy us a coffee, throw a couple of dollars in the virtual or the digital tip jar if you have it. But if you don't have that money, that's okay too. I'm still going to be here doing this thing, finding opportunities to connect and create with you for free because it brings me joy just as much as anything else. But oh, wonderful. Thank you all so very much. And thank you. And yeah, right back at you, everyone. Have a wonderful night. And please take care of yourself out there. Be kind to yourselves. And remember that you're precious too. I suppose we are each of our own, in our own way, our own precious things. So remember that you're precious and take a time, again, not the boss of you, but take a few moments every day just to say that to yourself, to remind yourself that you're precious, because we remember to do so many other things, but we often forget that. So you are precious. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing space and creativity with me. And I will see you again very soon. Oh, I hear my dog waking up for her nap. I guess it's time to go cuddle. She's super precious. Okay, folks, thank you so much. And I'll see you again soon. Have a great night or day or whenever it is, wherever you are at. Bye, everyone. Thank you.